Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy!
That's me, Tiberius!
Today, we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a video game about Marvel characters defending your phone, a book about dealing with the aftermath of 9/11. We have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Sean Burke. Sean is the owner of Rockpit Brewing, so he makes his own beer.
That's right, Tiberius. Rockpit's a family-friendly venue. Kids, dogs, everybody's welcome, but the beer is only for the parents.
Okay, well today we're going to start off with the video game of the week, and this is going to be a battle.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
Today's video game is Marvel Contest of Champions. Well, this is a cell phone game. It was made by Kabam Games, Inc. They have made other games like Disney Mirrorverse and Shop Titans, but today we're going to review Marvel Contest of Champions. This is a very different kind of game. It's a Street Fighter kind. Oh, and the cool part is that you can download this game for free.
All right.
So first off, I got into the game and it was kind of cool. And there was this button and it said play. And it put me into the game and you have to defeat all of your opponents with a sword. And the first time I played, I won! You earn money for if you beat the person and how long you stay alive. And then I played again, and after the game I noticed this button called Alliance. So I joined an alliance with my dad and we fight random people in the game, which is really fun. Then you keep playing over and over and over again. When you level up, you'll be allowed to have new characters that you can get by using crystals. You can then equip the person that helps you fight with you. Some of the characters are Hawkeye, Green Goblin, and some of the characters all from Marvel. I got my dad to try it, and he played for a few hours and leveled up higher than I did. Even I got this one character, Wolverine, that heals when you're standing still, which is pretty cool. Well, I give Marvel Contest of Champions 10 out of 10 stars because it was a really fast-paced game, and they don't take all day to play. It was really fun to go against other players, and I think anyone that likes fighting should really play this game.
Very cool.
And now it's time for the book of the week, Just a Drop of Water. This book is written by Carrie O'Malley Sarah. Carrie was an old classmate of my dad. In fact, let me read the back of the book. Sean, would you like to do the honors?
I would, thank you. Choosing to do what's right isn't always easy. Ever since he was little, Jake Green has longed to be a soldier and a hero like his grandpa. He died serving his country. Right now, though, he just wants to outsmart and outrun the rival cross-country team. But then the tragedy of September 11 happens, and it's quickly discovered that one of the hijackers lived nearby, making Jake's Florida town an FBI hotspot. 2 days later, the tragedy becomes even more personable when Jake's best friend, Sam Medina, is pummeled for being an Arab Muslim by their bully classmate, Bobby.
Dang. So, this is an Arab book and it's worth 9 whole points. That's a whole lot of points. It's rated for 4th grade and first month. So this book is about a boy named Jake Green and he has a best friend named Sam. Jake and Sam are cross-country runners and they practice all summer long trying to be captain of the team. A new kid, Kurt, took Jake's spot of captain because he was a much faster runner.
Wonder why they titled the book that way.
Good question. And then 9/11 happened. Some Arab terrorists hijacked American planes and flew them into the World Trade Center towers. It killed a whole lot of people. And Jake's mom was worried about Sam because he was an Arab Muslim and wanted Jake to stay away from him. Then Sam was being called a terrorist by Bobby, the school bully. But although not all Arab Muslims are terrorists, but it didn't matter. Jake wanted to defend his best friend, but Bobby called the FBI to get Sam's dad in trouble, and it worked. He was detained by the FBI, and now Jake's mom was being forceful about keeping away from Sam. Jake now had to choose from his own parents and his best friend. Then, well, I can't tell you everything because I really want you to go out and find it. And well, you can find it at Amazon and most libraries.
Yeah, September 11 was really tough for a lot of people. I lost a friend in the Twin Towers. And I grew up overseas in Saudi Arabia, so I had a lot of Muslim friends as well.
Well, I give Just a Drop of Water 12 out of 10 stars because it was a really riveting story, and I really enjoyed the ending. Thank you, Carrie, for sending me your book. It's now time for our interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Sean Burke. Sean is the owner of Rockpit Brewing, so he makes his own beer.
Thanks for having me on, Tiberius. Yes, I make beer, but we also have another crew that does most of the brewing of the beer.
Okay. So first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
This is incredible. I can't believe the setup you guys have here. This is amazing.
Thank you. Okay, so you're listed as someone that makes beer, and we do want to be sure to let the parents out there know that we are not telling kids to buy beer. But well, why do adults want beer?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question. I think that the most popular reason why people like to drink beer is for the socialization aspect of it. And that's kind of why we started Rockpit, was to have a gathering place where people could come, enjoy the company of good friends, good food, good beer, and good times.
Okay. Now, we talked about drinking 2 months ago with another beer maker, so I gotta know, how did you get interested in running a brewing company?
Well, make a long story short, it started off with me helping my dad, who was a home brewer at the time, way back when I was 10 years old. And my mom would make wine. And I just got interested in the process. It's just really cool to see something start out as one thing and then end up as another. And when I got older, I got more interested into the science aspect of it, the physics, chemistry, and biology, because all that comes into play. A little bit of luck, and then you have beer.
Okay, so how did you learn to make your own beer?
Well, I started out as a home brewer with my parents. I started watching them, and then when I came back to the States, I got tired of the regular American beer, like the Miller Lights and the Milwaukee's Best and that kind of thing. So I decided to become a home brewer again, and it took me about a year to get the guts to make the purchase, to buy all the equipment and everything like that, and it really wasn't that expensive. And I started making beer, and I didn't like anything that I brewed, but all of my friends did. So I got them to start buying the ingredients for me to make the beer, and then I got the idea, hey, I should do this for a living.
Yeah, that makes sense now. So, when did you know that this was what you wanted to do for a living?
Well, I originally wanted to start making the plan in 2009 when I had an incident happen at the house. My wife and I had just moved into a new house, and I brewed a batch of beer and went away for dinner for about 2 hours, came back, and the whole thing had exploded in the hallway, covered the entire hallway from ceiling to floor, on all the walls. It looked like a horror scene with stuff just dripping down the walls.
With beer?
With beer and foam and yeast and all that stuff. And my wife walks in the hallway in front of me, and I see what she's looking at, and I don't really know what to say, and I start to say something, and she just puts her hand up to stop me from saying anything. She goes, "Never again." And so we had a discussion about it later on that night, and I said, "Well, honey, if I can't brew beer in the house anymore, I'm just going to have to start a brewery." She said, "Whatever you got to do, just don't do it in the house anymore." So it's really her fault.
Do it outside. That would make sense, right? Do it outside?
Well, a lot of times you can't really do it outside where I lived at the time. So inside was, well, yeah, that, and also depending on your heat source. I didn't have a burner at the time, so I'd have to do it on the stove. But yeah, she didn't want it anywhere near the house.
Okay. So, do you make different kinds of beer, and what makes them different?
Yes, we make a wide variety of beers. We have 20 taps at Rockpit right now, and we brew everything that you see there. The only thing that we don't brew right now is the cider, which is going to be changing soon. But what makes them different? Well, like I said, there's a lot of physics, chemistry, and biology going on. So the primary ingredients are hops, barley, water, and yeast. So you change any one of those four things, and you can get a completely different beer. Like they have different yeasts that can make lagers and ales, and then they can make each one of those types many different flavors. And yeah, it's just incredible with the different grain bills that you can have, and the different yeast, and the different water profiles, and the way you ferment it. Just unlimited possibilities.
Yeah. So what's the hardest beer to make, and why?
What is the hardest beer to make? Well, chocolate beer. Yeah, chocolate beer is great. Actually, we make a pretty good one. I think the hardest beer to make is a really crisp lager, one that is just superior in aroma and flavor, because it's really easy for a lot of things to go wrong with that one, and to dial that in to make it perfect to style, that's pretty tough. A lot of the other beer styles you can kind of goof up on a couple different things and it'll still come out really good, but it's hard to hide any type of mistake in a really fine crisp lager.
Yeah. Okay, so are there any rules about how to make beer, or can you add anything you want?
American style, yes. So there's a term called Reinheitsgebot, which is German for, it's a purity law in Germany where you can only have the 4 ingredients that I listed, which was water, yeast, barley, and hops. So the way we do it here in the States, we have a lot of discretion about what we can put in there. So we can take a beer and we can put fruit in it, we can put spices in it, we can do all kinds of things. We make a ghost pepper and habanero spice lager. We make, a mango sour, all kinds of things.
Okay. Well, I heard that kids should not drink beer because it might be dangerous for them. But why is it not dangerous for the parents?
Well, technically it can be dangerous for their parents too. So it is correct that kids should not be drinking alcohol because at the stage of life when you're biologically younger and your body's still coming into maturity, alcohol can disrupt a number of those biological functions, and it can disrupt your brain development. So the idea is that when you get older, we have the legal limit at 21 right now, that you're pretty much at the point where you're going to be developed physically, and you have a little bit of better cognitive reasoning, so you're not going to do dumb things, which we all know is not entirely true, depending on how much alcohol you can drink. So it's really all about the effect that alcohol can have on your body when you're growing up. That's why we don't let kids do it.
Now, I know a lot of parents are going to be worried about the subject. So how do you suggest that they talk to their kids about beer and drinking?
That's a really good question. I think the first thing that parents should do is set a good example by not overindulging and just being responsible drinkers themselves. And the next thing they do is just be open and honest with the kids about the effects that it has on you, and what dangers it has, and how you can get into dangerous situations if you drink too much. Honesty is the best policy with that.
Okay. Now, I know beer is illegal for kids, but I've heard of non-alcoholic beer. I know the alcohol is the bad part. Do you think it's okay for kids to drink a non-alcoholic beer so that they can look like their dads?
I have 4 kids, and it's always important for me as a dad for my kids to want to be like me. Now, as a human being, we are fallible, right? So we do things that we don't necessarily want our kids to do. We want them to make their own mistakes, not the same ones that we made. But as far as non-alcoholic beer goes, there's a couple of things about that. So non-alcoholic beer doesn't necessarily mean no alcohol.
Really?
Non-alcoholic beer can be it's considered non-alcoholic when it's less than 0.5% alcohol in there. So there's still some alcohol in there. In the process of brewing beer, it creates alcohol, and there's ways that you can remove that and mitigate that. But in general, there's still going to be a little bit of alcohol in there. And they have what's called alcohol-free beer, which is a little bit different than non-alcoholic beer, and that's where there's no alcohol in it whatsoever. And they have to go through a filtration process and a couple different other processes to get all of the alcohol out of there for it to be a true alcohol-free beer.
Okay. Now, when I'm out with my dad, I will get a raw boy, which looks like the drinks my dad has, but does not have alcohol. How is that different from a non-alcoholic beer?
Well, in terms of just looking like what you're doing with your dad, not much at all. But as far as the non-alcoholic beer, like I said again, non-alcoholic can mean anything anywhere underneath 0.5% alcohol.
Okay. Now, do you need a lot of training to be able to run a brewing company?
Well, I didn't have any formal training to run a brewery, but I had a lot of experience in brewing beer, and I've got a lot of experience in running companies. So I kind of put those two together, and so far we've been doing pretty good. But yes, you probably should get some business experience before you go out and open up a brewery.
Okay. So what's the best part about making your own beer?
The best part about making our own beer is really, I'd have to say, it's the people who come to enjoy it with us. The reason why we started Rockpit was to have a great venue for people to come and just hang out, have some good food, good beer, good times. We have music, we have different events, and I've gotten to know hundreds of great people that I would have not met anywhere else had I not done this. So it's the people. That's the best part about it.
Okay. So do you have to serve all the beer you make, or do you sell it to stores?
Right now, we serve all the beer we make. Like I said, we have 20 taps. We have a 5-barrel brew house, and we're brewing constantly to keep up with the demand that's in the tap room.
Wow.
We are getting a bigger system. We're going to 15-barrel system, and we will have enough capacity then to actually put it out into stores. So you're going to be seeing that pretty soon from us.
Okay. So what's the hardest part about running a brewery?
I'd have to say it was making sure that we are providing something new and interesting for our customers all the time, keeping everything fresh.
Okay. So how long does it make to make a batch of beer?
Depending on the beer style, it can run anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. And then if we barrel age things, it might not be ready for a year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We can put generally darker beers like your stouts. Those will go into the oak barrels. We generally get used whiskey barrels, and we put it in there and we let it age, and it just keeps getting better and better as the months go on, and then we bottle it.
Wow. So what happens if it does not taste good? Can you fix it, or do you have to throw it all away?
That's a great question. One of the things that we decided when we opened Rockpit was that if we ever had a batch of beer that didn't meet the goal of what we were trying to achieve with that beer, that we would just toss it. Now, it's expensive to make a batch of beer, and to throw it all away is pretty depressing.
Yeah.
But if you're going to serve a beer that did not turn out well, your customers are going to know, and then you're going to get a reputation of serving bad beer. So generally, we just toss it.
Okay. So what's the craziest thing that's happened while you were doing your passion?
The craziest thing that happened while I was doing my passion, that would have to be when someone asked if they could get married in the brewery, and we had a wedding there.
What?
Yep. It was kind of crazy. They had actually met there.
Whoa.
And they decided they wanted to get married there too. So we had this funny impromptu wedding, and the patrons didn't know. We had a bunch of customers in there at the time, and actually the groom didn't know that's where they were going to get married. And so they came there, and it was funny. They had a bunch of guests. Actually, the groom and the bride knew. It was the guests they didn't know. So they had about 20 guests there, and they were all surprised when the bride comes down the stairs wearing her gown, and the groom takes her, and all of our customers that were in there, they were surprised too. They all got to witness. Yeah, it was great, and they all got to witness this wedding, and it was a really good time. And they're great people, and they've been back a bunch of times since then. So
wow. So who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
The person that helped drive my okay. I've never been asked that question. The person who helped drive my passion the most. Apart from me?
Yes.
Apart from me, it'd have to be my wife.
Why?
Because she didn't want me to do it in the house anymore. It's true.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give to my listeners if they wanted to grow up and make their own beer?
Start off as a home brewer. See if you actually like to do it, and if you do something else and make a lot of money before you decide to open up your brewery, because you're not going to be doing it with a brewery.
What was the best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice would be to go bigger than you think you should.
And who gave you that advice?
It was somebody on a brewery forum that the forum was all about, starting your own brewery. And there were a bunch of people out there that said, there was more than one person, that said the biggest mistake they made was going too small of a brew system, too small of a venue, too small of an offering, too small of a staff, that sort of thing. So go bigger than you think you need to.
Go big or go home.
That's right.
Now, what was the very first job that you've ever had?
The very first paying job I ever had was delivering flyers door to door in the middle of the desert.
What?
I grew up in the desert overseas, and there was a company that wanted to reach all the houses in our compound, and so they hired me and one of my friends to put these flyers. They were selling, I can't even remember what they were selling, but we'd have to put a flyer on their doorstep and put a rock on the flyer because it was always windy and sand blowing and everything like that. Now, that sounds easy enough, but it's the middle of the desert. There are rocks, but they're not really big rocks. And the doorstep isn't what you would think of a normal doorstep here in the United States. They're basically these giant steel staircases. Okay. And it's 120 degrees out. The steel is in the bright sun, so that's probably closer to 150 degrees. And so we have to find a rock, put a piece of paper down, put the rock on the paper, and not scald ourselves on these stairs while we're doing it. So that was fun.
Was there anything you learned from that job that helped you to be a better beer maker?
Yes, whatever you do it under air conditioning.
Okay. Well, my message, do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Follow your passion. If you think you can't do it, you're probably right, so stop thinking that way. If you think you can do it, you're probably right, so do that.
Okay. Now, my dad said that you sell your beer right next to Cecil's Barbecue. I love Cecil's Barbecue. Do you have lots of rules to follow because you make the beer yourself?
Yes, there are a lot of rules. We deal with multiple government agencies. Each one of those has their own set of rules and regulations that we have to follow to source the ingredients, how to brew the beer, how to package it, how to serve it, who we can serve it to, when we can serve it. Tons of rules.
Okay. Well, do you ever tell people to go to Cecil's Barbecue afterwards?
I do not.
Why?
Because they can get Cecil's Barbecue right at Rockpit. You don't have to get up off of your table.
Higher price or same price?
Same price.
Okay.
And there's stuff on our menu that they do for us that you can't get at Cecil's.
Ooh.
Like the smoked butter wings and the tacos, loaded tots. Oh, yeah.
That'll be nice. Okay. Well, if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
Go bigger and do it sooner.
Okay. Now, what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Biggest mistake ever made in my entire life?
Yep.
Not paying attention in class when I was in school.
Ooh.
And it set me back. How did it change me? It set me back a long time. Because had I paid attention, I believe that I could have gotten started and gone bigger a lot sooner.
Okay. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
Well, my work is fun. It's one of those things where so we're almost empty nesters. So my wife and I we go to movies. When we go vacation, we go on cruises. We go down to the Dominican Republic. I take naps when I can.
Yeah. So do you play video games? And if you do, what's your favorite one?
I don't anymore. It's been a while, but I used to. I was an avid video game player when I was younger. When the Atari, I played Atari incessantly. Adventure was my favorite one. Then when PC games came out, I played Ultima 3. Lost a lot of sleep over that. And then when I had kids, the PlayStation and Xbox and all that came out, I was stunned at the level of complexity that video games have come out with. So my 10-year-old son was into these really complicated games that I mean, so many buttons, so many triggers on the controller. So he actually found one that that was my speed, that he and I could play. It was called Mech Assault. And it was basically you're in these mechanized war machines, and you go battle each other, and it was really basic, and that was fun. Although I will also say that Plants vs Zombies was a favorite of mine as well.
Yes, that one was just fun.
And then of course Angry Birds. I mean Angry Birds.
Angry Birds was a very big classic.
Yes.
Now, which one's better, video games or board games?
For me, right now, it's board games.
Ooh. Now, what's your board game? Now, that's what I want to know.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. Does chess qualify?
Yes.
Then I would say chess.
Okay. So, what's your favorite book to read?
Anything by science fiction writers, Asimov, Tolkien, Bradbury, those guys. I'm reading right now the Foundation series from Isaac Asimov.
Okay. So, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show.
Okay.
That one story, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on. You can tell me.
On a kid show that I'm not supposed to tell you that I should tell you. Yes. So, man, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Well, it was one time I snuck out when I wasn't supposed to, and we went to, and again, I'm living overseas, right? So we went to downtown in the nearest city, and we didn't realize it, but we missed the last bus to get back home. So we had to do some very dangerous hitchhiking in a foreign country that was not very welcoming to foreign kids, and I made it back just in time for my dad to greet me at the door while he was getting ready for work.
That was fun.
Yes.
Did your friend make it?
He did. He lived right next door to me, and I think we didn't see each other again for about 3 weeks. I think we were grounded for 3 weeks after that.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
Well, I'm an introvert, but I'm in an extroverted business, and if you ever come by and see me, pull me aside, and we can talk about whatever you want to, and I will hook you up with our latest beers and talk you through every one of them. Okay.
So do you have a Facebook or website for my listeners to follow you?
Absolutely. So our website's rockpitbrewing.com, and on Facebook we're just Rockpit Brewing.
Okay. So what's the one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
That you forgot to ask me?
Yes.
What's my favorite beer?
Well, what is your favorite beer?
My favorite beer is a super bitter West Coast IPA.
Ooh. I was going to say, is it an IPA?
It is an IPA.
Well, thank you, Sean, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
I would love to stick around for Math Corners.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Thank you so much, Sean, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to do some more multi-step word problems. My dad's always good at finding new problems for me to solve. Today, we're going to talk about buying food.
You're going to make me do math?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Sarah and Tom are on a date. Tom gets some pasta for $3.97, and Sarah gets a salad for $2.50. They each get a soda, which is $1.05. Tom only has $10 in his pocket, and the sales tax is 7%. How much change will he get? Well, first is a real problem because we do know that kids love to be on dates. And they do cost a lot of money, and there's always going to be tax.
Yes.
In everything. So to solve this issue, you have to first get the total of the bill. So you start with the soda because I got 2 of them, which is 1.05 times 2, which is $2.10, and then you add the $3.97 and the $2.50, and then you get the $8.57. So looks good. Looks like you'll have enough. Now you have to times that by 0.07 for the percent tax, because Uncle Sam always gets his cut.
Yep.
So don't forget the decimal points, and you get 60 cents. Then you add the 60 cents to the $8.57, and you get $9.17. It's a lot of math for a simple date. And well, you subtract that 9.17 from 10, and you get that, and then you have to get 83 cents change. So Sean, do you think leaving the house with only $10 before a date is a smart idea?
No, it's a terrible idea.
Bring 100, right?
At least.
Yeah, at least. Now, Sean, my teacher said that I would use math every day. Do you use math in your work?
All the time. Even the stuff that we used to joke and say, I'll never use that when I grow up, I use algebra all the time.
I'm learning algebra. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for your help with Math Corners.
You're very welcome.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. The qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness. So my mom and dad are divorced, so they share their time with me. Each parent gets so much time each week. This is smart because I get to spend time with both parents, just at separate times. Well, this week, my mom told me on the phone that she was missing me, and I had, been with my dad a lot because of work. She had some time off, but it was my dad's day to be with me. And my dad said I could have the day with my mom if I wanted instead. I know he always wanted to spend time with me, so it was very selfless to give up his time so I can spend some extra time with my mom. And well, selflessness is a pretty good example of nobility. Just don't tell my dad that. I don't want to give him a big head. So Sean, did you see or use nobility at all this week?
Yeah, I did actually. I'd like to think that I'm pretty selfless when it comes to doing things for other people. I like to put others first, and I think that is, a pretty decent quality of mine. And this week, I had an opportunity to do that quite often, actually, with a lot of the people in our line of work. Sometimes they come in and they're not always in the best mood, or they're coming to drink their sorrows away or whatever. But that's not the goal of what Rockpit is, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of
yep.
Right? But every day I've got a lot of stuff to do. But sometimes it's important to just take some time and sit with somebody and listen to what they have to say and figure out what's bothering them and help them talk through it. And even if that means that some of the tasks don't get done or don't get done till later, it's more important to be there for our fellow man. Yep.
Of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
In my line of work, I think it would be leadership. I deal a lot with the customers. I have to, be a leader of our team, but also our staff. They're leaders themselves. They need to take control of situations, and when I'm not there, they need to step up and be. They need to act as the owner when I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, we should always try to be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. I like that a lot, actually.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Sean Burke for being on my show. It has been so much entertaining today. I think we can learn a lot about making beer and developing the conversation with our parents about drinking and dealing with adult situations.
We sure did.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you mind giving your social media and website again?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Rockpit Brewing. Our website is rockpitbrewing.com. And parents, you can bring your families to our location at 10 West Ileana Street, downtown Orlando, just right behind Cecil's Barbecue. We got plenty of beer and wine and cider for you to drink, and soft drinks for the kids.
Okay. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and subscribe. Also, be sure to tune us next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.